Hi everyone, welcome to day 4 of We Are Gonna Be Alright, a video series in which I talk a bit about themes of healing through national crisis and give you some food for thought and some helpful tips. So today's topic is the difference between judgment and discernment and why this becomes pretty crucial to assess during times of crisis. So when we are really activated, when we're in this fight, flight, freeze, survival response, which a lot of us are feeling lately on different levels with the pandemic, then those chemicals in our minds and our bodies say we need to judge this person because it's like we need that to deem whether or not they're allowing us to be safe, because sometimes we may feel like they are putting us in danger. So I think I gave you the example of me going to the grocery store the other day, feeling like people really were not protective of my bubble. That would definitely be discernment. Like, we have heard medical experts say, keep your 6-foot distance. That's the safest. I think now they may even be saying 10, right? So keep space. And people were not able to do that. And I was feeling a little violated and like, why are you not respecting my space? So to me, that's discernment, because knowing the facts, right? And it's possible that they didn't know these facts. So there's this piece of me that wants to give them the benefit of the doubt, but still, like, knowing this, then I chose to do my best to keep my distance from them and take my time grocery shopping. So that's discernment. Judgment is more when we're seeing someone post something about the way they're feeling about this whole thing. And, maybe they're saying that they feel really down on themselves. And so then we want to just like jump in and be like, oh, but look at like the grateful thing, the things that you must be grateful for right now. Like, we're assuming and placing judgment on them for expressing their feelings, right? And that happens a lot during times of crisis. There's tactful ways to do that, but when we're not really thinking about the other's feelings, or we're feeling like they should feel differently, then we can overimpose and it can come off as disrespectful and bypassing, which we do not want. So that would be judgment. So I'm going to read you a quote from a chapter in my book called Unearthed. And in this chapter, I talk a lot about the shadow. And I will explain the shadow after I read this quote. Until we see a piece of ourselves in every human, every animal, every plant, every drop of rain, there will be hateful and judgmental hearts. When we learn to see ourselves in the other, this is when our hearts can turn to love. Doing so doesn't mean our stories are the same, or we must enjoy all aspects of that being. It simply means we understand, and with understanding comes compassion. With compassion comes healing. With healing comes a new earth. So this describes a piece of the shadow. So the shadow, essentially, in Jungian psychology, is this idea that we have these parts of the self that are not morally acceptable in today's society. So it could be that sometimes we have like this really angry streak that is really hard for us to control. It could be that, we are, we are really into money. And if that piece of the shadow is not in check, then it can come across as like greedy, right? Greedy or self-serving. Those would be specific aspects of the shadow. And so what crisis does is it really brings those aspects to the surface. Really brings those aspects of ourselves, of companies, of politicians, straight up to the top. because we're in that survival mode. And so, we end up pulling more from our shadow because our shadows are like, I'm here to protect you. I'm here to do what I need to do to save us. And again, when we have not integrated those shadows in healthy ways, then it can come out in this way that it is actually hurtful to ourselves and other people. So, an example of this from the mass shooting in Vegas is that we were at one point hiding in a bathroom with another young woman that we kind of took under our wings because she was by herself and we didn't want her to be by herself. And she started doing things that really made me feel like she was putting us in danger. And we kept asking her to stop, and she was not stopping. And it really, really upset me. And in the moment, I was able to like breathe through it and not react. And then things unfolded so quickly thereafter that like none of us had to take any other significant action with her. But afterwards, I really thought about that and where that was coming from. And I know in the moment, like she was probably unable to really think through those things because of her own survival response, her own anxiety. But in the moment, I was like, dude, you're putting us all in jeopardy and this shit is not cool. Like, this is not okay. And so, some people might say like, well, that was your protective response. That was really great. That you were able to do that, and anyone would have. However, I also know that there was this piece of myself that felt like that I knew like I was being really impatient with her. And it's something that can happen with me pretty frequently, is that a part of my own shadow is that sometimes when people aren't listening, when I think that I'm right, then I can get into these little like battles with people. So it's something I've worked on over the years. I've gotten a lot better at it, but it is something that still surfaces, and it made sense that in that moment it really surfaced for me. So I really looked at that and I really tried to understand like what was going on for her that made her react that way that maybe I wasn't seeing. And yeah, so it just really, really speaks to the shadow. And then I wanted to read you one other thing from this chapter. I've realized that I can be both soft and loving and a fierce protector of myself and those I love. It's okay for me to be both. It serves me well that my fighter side can come out when protection is needed. I've learned that I can put up boundaries when I need them in life or death situations. Apparently, inside the soft, loving, gentle soul I call me, there is also a warrior who will protect her people, and a person who can act from a place of anxiety, just like this individual did. I've learned to be more patient with those who see things differently than I do. So I ask you to really think about what pieces of your shadow may be surfacing amongst all of this. And how have you really thought through whether or not you're being discerning versus judgmental? And I would say in that situation with this young woman that I was doing both. There were moments where I was being discerning because I really did feel like she was putting us in danger. And there were moments where I was judging her. Like, really, how can you not think through this? Right? And that piece was my own shadow and my own ego. So where are you being discerning? Where are you being judgmental? And how are you learning to integrate these parts of yourself? If any of you would like resources on that, let me know. I'd be happy to send you some links to books, and or schedule like a one-on-one with you to talk through it with you more, because I do think it's something that's coming up a lot for many of us right now. And we're really, as I said in one of my posts, we're really having to face other people's shadows too, which is really hard. Not only are we dealing with our own, but we're dealing with everyone else's, and it's a lot. So you'll probably hear me talk more about this later on in other posts and such. But do let me know how this sits with you. And as always, I really appreciate your feedback. Those of you that have PM'd me to give me your feedback or commented below, so helpful, and I'm glad that these are serving you. Be well, friends and family, and I will see you for day 5.